Grab your flowcharts, Wargamers. Today, we're going to go through a fairly complicated process of figuring out what the next phase of this southern global, well, semi-global, I guess it's a regional conflict. To refresh your memory, Queen Blanche d'Ivoire is hoping to seize Grand Point for her own power. The Albans, there's a lot of ethnic Albans that live in Grand Point, and she, sensing that the Tenebran allies to the north were distracted, launched a massive invasion into Grand Point. We fought the Battle of Lake Zambia, and it went completely against her. Down in the south, she had units land to take the city of Mudbourne, but they chickened out, came back to Whalegate, met a Tenebran army coming the other way, and down here, Queen Blanche's forces put paid to the Tenebran defenders. They were able to punch through it, and we got to figure out now what's going on with all six of these armies. There's also two armies. Well, there's one here, and there's one here. The Tenebrans have a reserve force in Blackbridge, and there is a northern Alban army up here in Thornhold, and we got to figure out what they're going to do now that the strategic situation has changed. And to do that, we're going to ask our good friends Mr. and Mrs. D6. But before we do that, we should talk about the casualties and the aftermath of these two individual battles. This battle was fought on February 12th, and the results of that, the word would not have reached all the way down here before this battle was fought. So these two battles, the Battle of Lake Zambia and the Battle of James Lighthouse, were fought with neither army on either side knowing what the results of the other battle were. So the fact that we have a split decision, the massive main thrust was defeated, but now you've got this almost a distractionary force that was not, creates an interesting strategic situation. However, we'll take a look real quick at the Battle of Lake Zambia here. There's Lake Zambia, in which the Albans were trying to punch through so that they could invest Grand Point in a siege, and they failed miserably. This hill was just one hill too many. They wound up losing a lot of units compared to just 3 or 4 for these Tenebrans. So let's take a look at what that means, what the aftermath is going to be. General Lackey was the victorious Tenebran general, and as I said, he had 4 units that were destroyed. So for those 4 units, now all of the units here, all of these regiments have 750 men. This is how we track their fighting ability. If they fall below 50%, they can't fight anymore. You've got to have at least 50%. With the artillery, they've got 150 men, 15 cannons, 10 men to a cannon. He didn't lose any of those, so not a problem there. What he does have is 4 regiments now. In fact, the big loss is that his heavy cavalry have been wiped out. Each side only has 2 regiments of cuirassiers. In this case, the Tenebrans have lost theirs. And then they have 2 line infantries that are badly damaged. And come February 28th, all of these wounded individuals will come back, and they'll be able to fight. Now, they'll be back up to 500 something. So, if they take too many losses, they'll be completely eliminated. But we'll approach that when we need to. On the flip side, you've got a situation where you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units that were destroyed, 1, 2, 3, 4 that were disrupted, and then 1 that was pinned. So for the larger force, General Meltzer, he was assaulting a well-defended position, and it didn't go well. If we take a look here, one of the questions that we have to ask is, this losing army, what happens to them? And there's a couple things you got to look at. For one, they have a clear line of retreat. They're right near the border. They're just inside Tenebra. So that helps. That means they're retreating over familiar ground. What does not help the Albans as they retreat back into their home territory is the fact that they only have 2 regiments of dragoons. They've got a lot of cannons to haul, so they're being slowed down there. But if we take a look at the cavalry, 2 units of dragoons versus 1, 2, 3, 4 units of dragoons chasing them down, that is a gross mismatch. These these light cavalry are going to be able to ride down the retreating forces. So what we do, we looked at Tony Bath, and Tony Bath says, look, figure out plus minuses. We've got a clear line of retreat, so +1. We've got a outmatched cavalry screen, so that's -2. And then they are disordered. They were in a bad way. Their troops were kind of scattered all over the place over here. So altogether, that gives them a total score of -2, which for him says you're going to suffer a 50% loss. So then what I did, I said, okay, if you were destroyed, you lost 50% of your units. Then, because you're retreating and you're being pursued, you lose 50% killed, and you've left behind all of your wounded. So the wounded are all taken prisoner. And at the end of the day, what that means is that the Tenebrans have captured 1,253, and we're not going to quibble over a prisoner here or a prisoner there, while suffering a so that's the total loss on the Alban side. On the Tenebran side, what you're looking at, well, they're not going to have any prisoners because they're in control of the contested ground. They lost 1, 2, 3, 4 times 190 is going to be 400, about 760 men dead. Hang on. These are the wounded that were captured. They lost a lot more than that. The Albans wound up losing, I don't have the total casualty list here, but it's going to be, what, 1,000, 2, 3, 38, 4, 4,500. They lost 4,500 men. And then they lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, another 500 artillery or 50 cannons to the enemy. They had to abandon them. They couldn't take them with them on the road to retreat. They may be able to consolidate their forces. If they do, they're going to go from a total of 76 AP to 27. So almost a third of their army remains to fight another day. And at the end of the day, so what I'm thinking is we've got a couple of line infantry here that are reduced to 50%. Okay, so the Bridgeacre and Cliff Frost become the Bridge Frost regiment. All right, you get 1 from that. That's going to leave the Alban main thrust with an effective fighting force of 4 line infantry, 2 guards, grenadiers, 1 light horse, and 3 cannons. Will consolidate the survivors here down into 3 regiments. That's a total of 27 AP. The survivors on the other side represent, they've only lost a total of 10 AP, and they'll get them all back in 2 weeks. So that's the situation as it stands in the north. The Tenebrans do have to deal with these almost 1,300 prisoners, and generally what I do is I say, all right, you know what, we're just going to leave these 4 lost regiments behind. Not lost, they've got, they're at 50% capacity. They got to deal with wounded, but if we leave them to guard these prisoners, then these guys can be used as hostages for the late game negotiations. Turning our attention back to the south, where we've got the Battle of James Lighthouse. And here, the opposite happened. The Albans have their supplies cut off, and in a desperate bid to restore their supply lines, they punched through here and did a pretty good job mopping up and driving off some pretty tough Tenebrans down here. Now, they did have more units. It started out as 40 army points worth of Tenebrans. They had a 20% advantage almost. Yeah, 20%. 48 AP for the Albans versus 40 for the Tenebrans. But the Tenebrans didn't have to do anything. They just had to stand their ground. They wound up losing a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. So that is going to be 50%. Well, it's 25% killed, 25% wounded. They'll come back. Well, never, because they lost the battle. They had to leave their wounded on the battlefield. They were captured. So General Irwin now has lost 1, 2, 3, 4 units. Same situation. He may consolidate, but he'll get his casualties back on the 28th. He did have a couple of pinned units, but that only loses 5% killed, 5% wounded, so they're still fighting at essentially 100% effective if a battle were fought tomorrow. General Irwin had 1, 2 units of light infantry and 2 units of heavy infantry, compared to General Typhonis's 1, 2, 3, 4 units of dragoons. So a bit of a mismatch there, or a bit of a push there. The heavy cavalry are not designed for herring off cross country to chase down stragglers. They can secure the battlefield. They're pretty tough. But if we run through our good news, bad news, the good news is that General Typhonis, as the losing general, is on his home turf. So that's a +1. He was retreating in generally retreating in good order. His guys controlled this portion of the battlefield, and although they didn't control this area down here, they had a nice cavalry screen. They could pull back in good order. So we're going to give them a +1 for that. We're going to give them a +1 for having a cavalry screen, and we're going to give them secure flanks. Bear in mind that this area right here is essentially the coastline, so they don't have to worry about pursuit coming at them from the south, only from the north, and they know that they're retreating towards friendly territory. If they were retreating towards, in the wrong direction, let's say, they're retreating towards Whalegate, a friendly town. So we're going to give them a +1 for that. And then we're going to give them a -1 because they do have to deal with these cavalry units of the Albans. So altogether they got a +3, which means they're only going to lose an additional 10% to pursuit. So they didn't get mauled quite as bad, but they didn't have as much to spare. They also managed to lose 900 prisoners. So again, the Albans now have 900 prisoners, and I think that leaves the option open for them. They're out of supply. They don't have a lot of time to waste. So as they march towards, they've got some possibilities here. They can march towards Whalegate and maybe salvage a little something from this war for Queen Blanche. But we'll have to see what General Irwin decides is the smart play here. He is still a day or two away, and essentially General Typhonis is going to, well, he's got a couple of options. He can retreat up this way, he can retreat that way, or he can retreat back towards Whalegate. But we'll get into that in just a bit. The other thing we need to talk about is the fact that I botched a little bit of the logistics on this one. For the reserve on the Tenebran side, as of the 2nd, so we're gonna turn the clock back now, boop, 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 boop. And we're gonna go back to early February. It's now at least a week beforehand, and all of these units are going to be consolidated. I have a note here on that page. Where are you? So I want to get this right because I don't always do that. They're going to be in Blackbridge. They're here. They're ready on the 4th. So what do? That's a good question. There's another force up here, and that is, for the record, that is 34 AP plus 8. Is that right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 4 dragoons. Now they don't, 4 dragoons, 16, 28, and then you add another 8. That's going to be 36 AP. So pretty good sized army there. A couple of artillery. On the other side, you've got General Greenwood, who's got a total of 28 AP. So outnumbered. He is up here in Thornhold on, now I'd written down February 28th, but that means it would have taken them 6 weeks to travel just this far. 6 weeks would get these guys halfway to the capital. It's got to be January 28th. So if we give them a few days to rest, starting on February 1st, General Greenwood up here in Thornhold has 28 AP worth of troops. What's he going to do with those? He's got a couple of options. We'll go over that as well. And in fact, that means we've got 6 things we need to think about. Getting a little rough here. I'll probably go ahead and once we establish what all 6 of these armies are going to do, I'll start a fresh sheet and we'll go from there. Meantime, I actually wrote this day out, the decision making, and what I did is I said, all right, I'm going to come up with basically 3 strategies for each of these generals. And you and I together are going to take a look at what those generals decide to do. And we'll start at the beginning, earliest in time. This is General Greenwood. He's got 3 options. He can hold here and await orders. He can move to the frontier, march over here, and he can do 2 things in that case. He can leave immediately, or he can leave on the 4th. Take, full week off, and then my guys are rested, and then I'll leave. Or he can go ahead and just attack Sleek Forest. It's a fairly small town, but if they take that, it will cut off, it'll put a lot of pressure on the Umbrastra, the capital, and it will cut Umbrastra off from potential allies to the north. So, it's very easy. On a 1 or a 2, he's going to wait. On a 3 or 4, he's going to move to the frontier and wait for orders. On a 5 or 6, he's going to attack. So he is going to move to the frontier, and he's going to leave on the 4th. That becomes important because of what he might do. General Sempratis can either hold here at Blackbridge. Remember, he's watching an army marching down south. He's watching an army here. If things go horrible here on the 12th, it'd be nice to be close enough to launch a counterpunch. So what does he do, not knowing what the results of the battles of Lake Zambia or James Lighthouse are? Well, same thing. He can hold and await developments, and we'll recheck. In that case, we'll recheck on the 14th, February 14th. Or he can set out for the capital. He's going to take a few days to rest too. On the 7th, he can set out. Or he can set out for Grand Point on the 7th. So it's going to be a 1-2 is hold, 3-4 is head this way, 5-6 is head this way. 1-2, so he's going to hold right there. And I'll make a note of that. Then we've got General Meltzer. And General Meltzer is the defeated general down here in the center. Again, he's got 3 choices. Well, he's got 1 choice. He's got to retreat. The question is, does he retreat all the way to Fairhold? Does he retreat to the border and hold there? It's only a day or 2 march. Or does he retreat to the border, consolidate his forces, and make another attack? It's going to be a 1-2 to here. It's going to be a 3-4 to there. And on a 5 or 6, he's going to launch another attack. 1-2. So he's going to retreat to Fairhold. Regardless, it's going to take him a full week to consolidate his forces once he gets there. So he's going to go to Fairhold, take a week to reconsolidate, and then who knows? General Lackey is the victorious general down here at Grand Point. No surprise. He's got a command competency rating of 6. And he's got 3 choices as well. Does he want to consolidate his forces? In other words, he's going to leave his 4 injured units behind to guard the 1,300 prisoners. And that's only going to take a day. And then he pursues Meltzer with everything he's got. That's on a 1 or a 2. On a 3 or 4, he's going to leave a detachment of 10 AP here. And then he's going to pursue General Meltzer. Right? Those guys are so that if this general gets a little frisky, he can send them north. Or if things go really poorly down here, he can at least send 10 AP down to punish them for whatever they're doing. Likewise, he can retreat to the border. Or he can hold and send a detachment. In other words, he can either pursue with everything, he can leave 10 AP there to wait developments and pursue with everybody else. Or he's going to pursue, or he's going to hold right there, or he's going to hold the whole army, send a detachment. So that's going to be on a 1 or a 2, we'll pursue with everything. On a 3 or 4, we'll leave a detachment and pursue. On a 5 or 6, we'll hold there and send a detachment out. So 1 or a 2, he's going to pursue with everything he's got. Very interesting. He's going to make Queen Blanche pay. Down in the south, that might be an issue. Anyway, down in the south, depending on what happens down here, we got to figure out what the victorious General Irwin is going to do. Now that he's punched through the defenses, is he going to pursue General Typhonis' forces wherever they go? have another battle, this time with significant numerical superiority. Try to end that army for good. That's a 1 or a 2. On a 3 or 4, he is going to march to Whalegate and lay siege to that. And on a 5 or a 6, he's going to exchange the prisoners at Whalegate. He's going to drop them off there and say, look, General, I'll return the prisoners to you, but I want safe passage back to Sun Harbor. That's on a 5 or a 6. And that's exactly what he's going to do. So he has decided that he is lucky to have escaped from the jaws of a trap of his own devising. And then we have to figure out what General Typhonis is going to do. Now, General Typhonis doesn't know that he's going to negotiate. Oh, I should probably tell you what these things mean. On a 1 or a 2, he's going to retreat to Mudbourne. That's this large city. On a 3 or 4, he's going to retreat to Whalegate. And on a 5 or 6, he's going to move cross land and head to Grand Point. So on a 3 or 4, he's going to retreat to Whalegate. So he is, oddly enough, going to shadow General Irwin. And when General Irwin makes his escape, I don't know. At that point, we're going to have to figure out, we'll have to recheck in about a week and see where things stand. I'm a little disappointed. I was hoping we were going to get to do another siege. Sieges are fun. To refresh your memory, we're using the Solo Wargaming Guide by William Sylvester. It has rules for sieges, how long they take, how many resources you need, how many resources you burn. Got glue on my book somehow. And that how long you need is important because it may take so long that you've got time to bring one of your other forces up. It looks like we're not going to have one of those just yet. Instead, we're going to wind up, from the looks of things now, I'm going to have to sit down and run through one more episode of this second Solo Wargame campaign because I need to run the numbers on how long these two generals are going to how long they're going to take to consolidate their forces, exactly how they're going to do that. You know, it's entirely possible that General Meltzer, he's retreating to Fairhold, so he may just hold up there. So maybe we will get a siege out of this. We'll have to figure out how long that takes. We'll have to figure out how long it takes for him. What do we say? He's going to hold and wait developments. So we got to recheck tomorrow. After pausing for a moment to consider the strategic situation, General, where's our reserve general? Semperatus. Haven't talked a whole lot about him yet. General Semperatus now, if we fast forward, it's going to be about the 16th before word reaches, it might even be as late as like the 18th or 19th. He's going to learn about the defeat here. He's going to learn that the Albans are in headlong flight back to the safety of Sun Harbor. So with everything moving this way down here, that kind of tells him what he needs to do. He doesn't need to take the river route. This is the fastest way to travel. They're still up there. So he's got to do one of two things. He's got a choice to make. Is he going to march on Grand Point, which leaves the capital vulnerable? Grand Point, in case things go worse down here. Or, well, here's one thing to consider. You've got a march of 4 inches there and 1.5, 2.5, 4 inches there. So the distance from Umbrastra to here or here is about the same. Two armies marching at the same pace will meet right there. Give it a week for word to arrive, and if he gets there, if the Alban North starts heading this way, they're going to have to punch through Sleek Forest, which means this might be the smarter play. And all I'm trying to do here by thinking this through out loud is put some probabilities to this. Does it make more sense for him to go this way or this way? Because if we think it makes more sense to go this way, then we'll say on a 1 through 4, he marches north. If it makes more sense for him to go this way, then we'll say on a 1 or a 2, he marches north, and on a 4 through 6, he marches down here. I think he's better off marching for Umbrastra. And that's what we're going to weight it for. So on a 1 through 4, he's going to go north. I mean, worst case scenario, he may come down this way, right? So 1 through 4, he's going to head that way. And that's what it is. So he's going to hold until he receives word about this victory. And at 2, 3, at about 4 inches along bad roads, a courier is that's going to be 80 miles. A courier can cover that in about 2.5 days. So on the 16th, he's going to set out. And there you have it. Now we know what our situation is. And that's it. General Greenwood up here is going to secure this flank. That's all he's going to do. He's going to protect that. He's not moving until he gets deliberate orders from anybody saying launch an invasion. So unfortunately, we're not going to get to do any sieges up there. He is going to be camped right here on the frontier, though. So he is ready to go with 28 AP. As soon as he gets the word, he can at least try to take over Sleek Forest. Maybe they can get a little something out of this, but for right now, it's not looking good for the White Queen. This will be the next battle we fight, and I don't know, after I run the numbers and see how they march, we may even get to do a siege down here. We may even get to do another battle down here, a rematch between Irwin and Typhonis. Although with the state of Typhonis' army, I don't know how eager he's going to be to do that. He's going to be facing down, particularly because by the 28th, by the time they're ready, everybody on General Irwin's side, he's still going to have 48 AP ready to go. And Typhonis here is going to be down quite a few. It's going to be much more of a fair fight than any general should be comfortable fighting. There's our situation. The war continues, and the battered and much reduced forces are gearing up for round 2, which we'll get to in a few days, probably next week sometime. I hope you'll come around and enjoy the solo wargaming campaign with the help of our good friend, Dr. Bill Sylvester. Dr. Mr. Professor, I don't know if he's a doctor, whatever, I'm praying for you.